The anomaly. The stellar hegemony had ruled 12,000 star systems for 3 millennia. Their ships patrolled the void between galaxies, maintaining order through superior technology and absolute control. No species had ever challenged their authority. No civilization had ever surprised them. Until today, Commander Vexara floated in the command sphere of her patrol vessel, the Eternal Vigilance. Her crystalline form pulsed with soft blue light as she processed information from 100 different sensors simultaneously. The Zephrani were beings of pure energy housed in geometric crystal shells, and Vexara was considered one of their finest military minds. She had served the hegemony for 200 cycles, and nothing in the vast emptiness of space could surprise her anymore. The sensor technician, a six-limbed Korvath named Drell, suddenly chittered in alarm. His compound eyes focused on readings that made no sense according to everything they knew about physics. "Commander, we have detected an anomaly in grid 779. The energy signature is unlike anything in our databases." Vexara's crystalline form brightened with interest. She directed her consciousness toward the sensor array, absorbing the data directly into her mind. What she found defied explanation. The readings showed a massive spatial distortion, but not from any known faster-than-light technology. This was something else entirely, something that shouldn't exist. The distortion grew stronger, and then space itself seemed to tear open. From the wound in reality emerged a ship that made every officer on the bridge fall silent. It was enormous, nearly 5 kilometers long, but that wasn't what shocked them. The vessel looked ancient and new at the same time. Its hull was black as the void itself, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, glowing with an eerie green energy that hurt to look at directly. "Analysis," Vexara commanded, though her usually steady voice carried a note of uncertainty. Drell worked frantically at his station, running every scan available. The results only deepened the mystery. "Commander, the ship appears to be constructed from materials we cannot identify. Our sensors cannot penetrate its hull. The energy readings suggest it's using dark matter as a power source, but that's impossible. No civilization has ever harnessed dark matter." Vexara studied the alien vessel through the viewing sphere. It hung motionless in space, silent and waiting. There were no visible weapons, no shield generators she could detect, no communication arrays. Just that strange, light-eating hull and those unsettling green patterns that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. "Attempt communication," she ordered. "All known frequencies and translation protocols." The communications officer, another Zephrani named Crix, sent out the standard first contact package. Mathematics, universal constants, peaceful greetings in 10,000 languages. For long moments, nothing happened. Then, surprisingly, a response came through. Not in any language they knew, but in pure mathematics, elegant and precise. "They're responding," Crix announced. "Wait, this is strange. They're not just sending back our equations. They're correcting them. Our mathematical models for stellar formation, gravitational wave propagation, even our basic understanding of space-time. They're showing us where we're wrong." Vexara felt something she hadn't experienced in decades. Fear mixed with fascination. Whatever species had built that ship possessed knowledge beyond the hegemony's understanding. That should have been impossible. The hegemony had absorbed the knowledge of thousands of civilizations over millennia. The black ship suddenly broadcast a message, this time in perfect Zephrani. The voice that came through their speakers was deep and measured, carrying a weight of exhaustion and determination that transcended species. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of the Earth ship Iron Will. We mean no harm to your hegemony. We are refugees, the last of our kind, seeking safe passage through your space. We ask only to be left in peace." Vexara processed this information quickly. Earth. The name meant nothing to her. No such world existed in any hegemony database, yet this Captain Webb spoke as if his species carried a burden too heavy for words. "Captain Webb, this is Commander Vexara of the Stellar Hegemony Patrol Vessel, Eternal Vigilance. Your ship has entered hegemony space without authorization. You will power down your engines and prepare to be escorted to a processing station for proper registration and inspection." There was a long pause before Webb responded. "Commander, with respect, we cannot comply. The Iron Will cannot be boarded or inspected. Our technology, our very survival, depends on maintaining complete autonomy. We seek only passage, nothing more." Vexara's crystal form flashed red with indignation. No species had ever refused a direct hegemony command. The arrogance of these humans was astounding. Yet something in Webb's voice gave her pause. It wasn't arrogance she heard. It was desperation carefully controlled. She decided to try a different approach. Captain Webb, you claim to be refugees. From what do you flee? Perhaps the hegemony can offer assistance. Another long pause. When Webb spoke again, his voice carried the weight of infinite sorrow. Our sun, Commander. Our star went nova 3 years ago. Not naturally. It was murdered. Earth, our homeworld, is gone. 10 billion souls turn to ash in minutes. The Iron Will carries the last 40,000 humans in existence. We flee from those who would finish what they started. Drell chittered nervously at his station. Commander, I'm detecting something else. The space around their ship is wrong. It's as if reality itself has been wounded where they passed through. Whatever drive system they're using, it's damaging space-time itself. Vexara absorbed this information with growing concern. A species advanced enough to harness dark matter and tear holes in reality, yet unable to save their own world. It didn't make sense, unless they had developed their technology specifically because of the threat they faced. Desperation often led to breakthrough innovations that stable civilizations would never attempt. Captain Webb, your story is troubling, but hegemony law is clear. All vessels in our space must submit to inspection. We cannot make exceptions regardless of circumstances. Webb's response was immediate and firm. Then we have a problem, Commander. Because we will not submit, we cannot. The technology keeping 40,000 humans alive cannot be examined or understood by your science. Any attempt to board or scan us deeply will result in catastrophic failure of our life support systems. Vexara consulted with her senior officers through their quantum link, exchanging thoughts at light speed. The consensus was clear. These humans were either lying or delusional. No species could develop technology the hegemony couldn't understand. It was a matter of pride as much as security. She made her decision. Captain Webb, you leave us no choice. You have 1 solar hour to reconsider. If you do not comply, we will disable your ship and board by force. The hegemony cannot allow unknown vessels to traverse our space freely. The response from the Iron Will was not words but action. The green patterns on its hull suddenly flared to life and space around the ship began to warp. Sensors screamed warnings as gravitational waves that shouldn't exist washed over the eternal vigilance. Then, as quickly as it began, it stopped. Webb's voice returned, calmer now, almost sad. Commander, what you just experienced was 1% of our defensive capabilities. We developed these systems not for conquest but for survival. The species that destroyed Earth commands forces beyond your understanding. We've learned to hide from them, to slip between dimensions where they cannot follow. Please don't make us demonstrate further capabilities. We just want to pass through peacefully. Vexara felt her entire worldview shifting. The hegemony had always been the supreme power in known space. To encounter a species that spoke of even greater threats that had developed technology specifically to hide from something worse was deeply unsettling. Yet she had her duty. She began charging weapons, knowing that whatever came next would change everything. The hegemony had finally found something it didn't understand, and that terrified her more than any threat of violence. Because if these humans were telling the truth, if something out there could destroy entire stars and force a species to develop impossible technology just to survive, then the hegemony's 12,000 systems meant nothing. They were all just children playing with toys while real predators stalked the cosmic dark. The revelation. The eternal vigilance fired first. Columns of concentrated antimatter lanced across the void. Enough destructive power to vaporize a small moon. They struck the Iron Will directly, and for a moment Vexara thought the conflict was over before it began. Then the impossible happened. The antimatter beam simply disappeared, absorbed into the black hull without even a flash of light. Drell's voice cracked with panic. Commander, their hull isn't just absorbing our weapons. It's converting them directly into energy for their systems. Every shot we fire makes them stronger. Before Vexara could respond, the Iron Will retaliated. Not with conventional weapons, but with something far more terrifying. Space itself became a weapon. Gravitational waves, precisely controlled and focused, slammed into the eternal vigilance. The ship's hull groaned and twisted as localized gravity fields tried to tear it apart from within. Warning lights flashed throughout the command sphere as systems began failing. Cease fire, Vexara commanded, her crystalline form flickering with stress. All ships cease fire immediately. The gravitational assault stopped as suddenly as it had begun. The Eternal Vigilance hung wounded in space, its perfect hull now scarred and twisted. In 200 cycles of service, Vexara had never seen hegemony shields fail so completely. These humans hadn't just defeated their defenses, they had bypassed them entirely, attacking with forces that shields couldn't stop. Webb's voice came through the communication system again, heavy with regret. "We didn't want this, Commander. Please let us explain properly. Request permission to send an envoy to your ship. One human, unarmed, to help you understand." Vexara consulted her damage reports. The Eternal Vigilance was still functional, but would need extensive repairs. If the humans had wanted to destroy them, they could have. Instead, they had demonstrated precisely enough force to disable without killing. It showed a level of control that was almost more frightening than raw destruction. "Permission granted," she responded, though every instinct warned against it. A small section of the Iron Will's hull opened, revealing a glimpse of green-lit interior that hurt to perceive directly. A tiny shuttle emerged, so small it barely registered on sensors. It docked with the Eternal Vigilance minutes later, and a single figure emerged. Captain Marcus Webb was not what Vexara expected. Humans, it turned out, were bipedal mammals, relatively small and fragile-looking. Webb appeared aged even by his species standards, his hair gray, his face lined with exhaustion and grief. He wore a simple black uniform with no decoration except a small pin showing a blue and green sphere. Earth, Vexara realized. Their dead world. Webb stood in the center of the command sphere, surrounded by suspicious hegemony officers. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but carried absolute conviction. "Commander Vexara, 3 years ago humanity detected signals from beyond our galaxy. We responded, thinking we had found friends among the stars. We were wrong. The others, as we call them, don't conquer or enslave. They simply erase. They view biological life as a contamination to be cleaned." He produced a small device that projected a hologram. It showed a beautiful blue world orbiting a yellow star, Earth in all its living glory. Then the image changed. The star began to brighten, its core destabilizing in ways that shouldn't be possible. In seconds, it went nova, consuming everything in the system. "They did this with a single probe," Webb continued. "A device no bigger than this room that somehow triggered cascade fusion in our sun's core. We had 13 minutes of warning. 13 minutes to save 10 billion people. We saved 40,000. Vexara studied the data Webb provided. The stellar mechanics were impossible according to hegemony science, yet the evidence was undeniable. Whoever these others were, they possessed technology that made both humanity and the hegemony look primitive. "How did you develop your current technology so quickly?" she asked. Webb's expression grew darker. "We didn't develop it. We stole it. The probe that destroyed our sun, we managed to capture part of it before Earth died. Our best scientists gave their lives studying it, learning from it. What you see in the Iron Will is our crude attempt to replicate technology we barely understand. We're children playing with tools meant for gods, but it's all that keeps us alive." He showed them more images. Human scientists working in radiation-soaked laboratories, dying as they decoded alien science. Ships being built even as Earth burned behind them. The desperate evacuation as their world died, millions left behind because there wasn't enough time. "The others are still out there," Webb said. "They've destroyed 17 civilizations that we know of. They move slowly, methodically, cleaning the galaxy of what they consider imperfections. The Iron Will isn't just a ship. It's an ark, a seed bank, everything humanity was and could be. But more than that, it's a warning. They're coming this way." Drell chittered anxiously. "If these others are so powerful, why haven't they found you?" Webb smiled grimly. "Because we learned their weakness. They can't perceive dark matter, can't interact with it at all. So we built our ship to exist partially in dark matter space. We're essentially invisible to them, but the process is killing us. Every jump tears a piece of reality and we can feel it. The human body wasn't meant to exist between dimensions. We have maybe 10 years before the radiation kills everyone aboard." Vexara processed this information through the quantum link with her superiors. The hegemony leadership was in chaos. Everything they believed about their supremacy was crumbling. Here was a species that had faced extinction and survived through sheer determination and sacrifice, developing impossible technology through desperation and genius. "What do you want from us?" she finally asked. Webb straightened, and for the first time hope flickered in his eyes. "An alliance. We can teach you what we've learned about the others, help you prepare defenses, In exchange, we need a world, somewhere to rebuild, to have children who won't have to live between dimensions, somewhere to plant seeds and watch them grow again. He paused, then added quietly, "We also need your help with something else. We're not the only human survivors. 3 other ships escaped Earth, but we lost contact. They're out there somewhere, probably as desperate as we are. Help us find them, and humanity will share everything we know." Vexara found herself studying this small, fragile being who had faced the death of his world and refused to surrender. The hegemony had ruled through strength and control, but these humans had survived through adaptation and sacrifice. They had taken technology meant to destroy them and turned it into salvation. "Your proposal will be considered," she said formally, though she already knew what the answer would be. The hegemony needed humanity's knowledge, their desperate genius, their ability to take impossible situations and find solutions. But more than that, she realized the galaxy needed humanity's resilience. If the others were coming, the ordered perfection of the hegemony wouldn't save them. They needed the chaos and creativity that desperation brought. Webb nodded and turned to leave, then paused. "Commander, there's something else you should know. We've been scanning your space since we arrived. Your technology, your ships, they're impressive but static. You've stopped innovating because you've never had to fight for survival. The others will tear through your defenses in days unless you learn to think differently." He looked directly at her crystalline form. "Humanity can teach you to survive. We've become experts at it. But survival means change. And change means accepting that you're not the supreme power you thought you were. It means being willing to break every rule, violate every tradition, if that's what it takes to live another day." As Webb's shuttle departed, Vexara found herself considering possibilities she had never imagined. The hegemony had encountered something beyond their understanding. But perhaps that was exactly what they needed. These humans, with their wounded ship and impossible technology, might be the catalyst for evolution the hegemony hadn't known it needed. The iron will began to move away, its dark hull rippling with those unsettling green patterns. But now Vexara saw them differently, not as a threat but as a promise. Humanity had looked into the face of extinction and survived. They had stolen fire from the gods who tried to destroy them. Perhaps it was time for the hegemony to learn from humanity's example. Perhaps it was time to stop ruling and start surviving. Because if Webb was right, the real war hadn't even begun yet. The others were coming. And when they arrived, the galaxy would need every desperate, innovative, rule-breaking human they could find. The last 40,000 humans might just be enough to save trillions.